Hello, Dr. Murthy and Professor Roos from Face Restoration in London. Thank you again for joining me here today. Quick question for you guys. Would you recommend tea tree oil for use as cosmetics?
Tea tree oil is interesting because when you look at the literature, the strength of concentration varies from 5% to 50%. And that probably means when you have that wide a range, probably means that there's something fishy going on. There's been a huge analysis called the Cochrane Review looking at whether or not tea tree oil is helpful for the eyes in making them more comfortable, making the lids less inflamed. And actually, a lot of the big reviews that were looked at, these randomized control trials, which is the best kind of evidence we can have, show that it's not really that efficacious. And in fact, it can cause harm to the ocular surface. So tea tree oil is something one should be very careful of. The only study that actually showed...
Wait. Slow it down a little bit. So we're talking about tea tree oil for cosmetics. So I know tea tree oil is used for, say, managing toe fungus, and tea tree oil can be used in clinic for, say, the management of Demodex infestations. But what I want to know from you, eye experts, surgeons, ophthalmologists, is tea tree oil, would you recommend it to your patients as a daily use for cosmetics? Face wash, cleanser, eye makeup remover, moisturizer, whatever. Tea tree oil, cosmetic or clinic, or both?
Yeah, so I mean, I think what Jonathan was saying is really important to set things in context, essentially. So tea tree oil is used for multiple different things, and cosmetics are just the tip of the iceberg. And so that means that we don't know what concentrations are going into it. Right. We know that tea tree oil has several side effects. If we take the side effects before we look at the benefits of it and then weigh up the balance of pro and con side effects, well, it can cause damage to the cells around the eyes, first of all, because we're interested in eyes. So as an ophthalmologist, we don't want to cause more damage. We want to cause benefit. It can cause, when it's absorbed into the body, it can cause endocrine disruption. So that means that it can affect the androgen levels in the body.
And actually, the Endocrine Society said that it can actually make breasts grow in young boys. So that's definitely important.
Exactly. It increases estrogen, it reduces androgen levels. That also is something that can hurt the eyes because we need to have levels of androgen to maintain a healthy ocular surface and the meibomian glands.
And androgen again, deficiency can actually promote MGD as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be using products on your skin to treat inflammation and acne, and those skincare products are then added to with cosmetics, which also have tea tree oil and T4O, the active ingredient, and we know that concentrations that are very, very low can cause serious side effects, then what is the benefit? There are much less harmful things to the body and to the eyes that can be used to treat certain conditions.
So then basically for a clinic, say that's using tea tree oil to manage a Demodex infestation, that typically is prescribed over a short period of time. So then basically what you're suggesting is in clinic use, okay, because it's being managed by an eye care professional, they can see if anything is, say, happening to the ocular surface during this treatment and they can manage accordingly. However, if people are using it at home as a daily cosmetic, say face wash, cleanser, or makeup remover, or creams, or anything of that sort, it's likely not recommended because of the concentrations that they're using on an extended period of time, and it could not be, say, that gentle on our eyes. So it's best not to have it part of their daily beauty and hygiene routine.
I mean, I think we don't want to open up a whole can of worms, and there's a lot of debate about this because we need more research in this field to look at the benefits versus the side effects. But we are constantly seeing products that aim to eradicate Demodex. Demodex mites are things that live all over our body and around our eyes.
They're natural.
They're natural. They do carry bacteria, and it may well be actually the bacteria that they carry that is harmful to the eyes, that causes inflammation. And so we maybe should be looking at targeting the bacteria rather than the Demodex mites, because if we're killing the Demodex mites, we're killing everything else around there as well. And that's not.
But is it possible to kill? I mean, every adult, every human has mites all over their body. That's just a normal part of.
Exactly. You get rid
So
of this lot, and then some more will come along and
you just kind of crawl over to your false eyelashes.
So I think we are targeting the wrong thing.
Okay.
And so we need to focus on the microbiome. Tea tree oil also causes antibiotic resistance. So when we're trying to treat people for infections and inflammation around the eye with certain antibiotics, then they're not going to be adding to the help. So we need to rethink the whole process. But the first thing is that we
tea tree oil.
well, there are some studies that suggest that tea tree oil makes antibiotics. It's been reported in the chief report.
I was going to disagree a bit with Rachna. I don't think we need much more research in this area. I think in most areas of cosmetics, there's no research at all. In this area, we actually have 6 randomized control trials. And those control trials actually showed quite a lot of bias, which means that they were favored towards showing an effect.
Oh, really?
Because the people who run these studies usually have an interest to show that something works.
Okay.
So usually it's companies who will be pushing a product.
But how do I, as a customer, know what is, say, marketing science versus, say, healthy science that I can trust?
So a randomized control trial in general should be double-blinded, which means that the researchers don't know who's being treated and the patients don't know if they're being treated or not. And so that means that you should get good data. Regarding tea tree oil, there are 6 randomized control trials that have been published. So that's way more information than most other products that we put on our faces. And even with all that effort, the overall conclusion is that it is probably marginal at best in terms of being helpful, and it can actually be toxic. There were adverse events reported. The only study that showed real benefit of using this around the eyes for blepharitis, dry eye, etc., was one which combined it with a light treatment. And when you combine it with light treatment, then there's efficacy. But as I said at the beginning, if you have a range of concentration for what you're using, which varies by a factor of 10, it probably means that it's not working that well, or you don't really know what you're doing, because like we don't change antibiotic doses by factors of 10. Like that would be odd, right?
Yes.
Or any other kind of treatment. So I would say I'd be cautious with using this. I don't think the science is there showing that it should be used. Rachna's right that we might need more studies, but we already have more studies than we have with other cosmetics, and they haven't been that positive.
I think the studies need to be looking at the root cause of the problems that we're trying to treat, and targeting Demodex mites around the eyes with these products may not be the solution.
And I mean, we have better.
What are the cause of the infestations as well? Because maybe patients need to look at how their lifestyle choices are impacting their eye health and causing, say, an infestation. Maybe, for example, their use of false eyelashes and not cleaning the lids thoroughly, or not removing their eye makeup on a regular basis, etc. So maybe there's this story.
Yeah. But using tea tree oil is a lifestyle choice, right? I mean, all these things are lifestyle choices, and I think for tea tree oil,
but it should be managed. What you're saying, it should be managed. It should be overseen by the eye care professional, not something that's a daily practice.
Well, overseen by an eye care professional that is aware of the current evidence and the current treatments, and also alternative, less harmful treatments that are available, like the light treatments, for instance. Like the hypochlorous.
But we don't want to make this too long, but I think for the viewers, I think it's important to understand hierarchies of evidence. For most cosmetic, it's eminence-based, which means like somebody famous says, I like this product. That's like the lowest level of evidence. And then as you go up the pyramid of evidence, there'll be case studies. We treated 10 patients in our clinic and they all got better. And above that, you have a proper randomized control trial. And for tea tree oil, we have 6 of those published.
Okay.
Above that, you have a meta-analysis, which means that you take all the randomized control trials and you look at them. And then the highest level of evidence you can get in science is something called a Cochrane review, which is run in the UK by an organization called Cochrane Institute. And they look at all the randomized control trials and all the evidence and all the case reports, and they make an overall judgment and give an overall recommendation.
Okay.
And that overall, and it's available, online for people to look at themselves. And it basically says can be toxic, not that helpful.
Okay. And that's interesting because also with the TFOS lifestyle report, for example, in the cosmetic section, it's very much done like that because it looks at all of the science-based evidence, the peer-reviewed research, and makes recommendations, transparent recommendations based on the hardcore trials. So it's interesting to see this. It's also available online. So for customers who are curious about the impacts of tea tree oil, if they want to delve more into the science, that is available online, whether it be from the Cochrane studies or the TFOS lifestyle reports.
The important thing to remember, Amy, is that we are people who are interested in ophthalmology and the periocular area. We are not experts on toe fungus, or there are lots of other uses of tea tree oil which may be very helpful, but we would caution the use in the periocular area.
Around the eye. So thank you. No, it's very helpful because again, it's very difficult to decipher the ingredients in a lot of these products, but it's helpful for customers to understand, for patients to understand what we can use safely on and around the eyes. And again, sometimes it's better to be managed by the clinic and not just managed in our
I was interested by what Rachna said, because I didn't know that actually using tea tree oil will make your boobs grow, which means we're probably going to start a storm of wipes being used in the cosmetic industry.
No, there was actually a study by that, and in 2018, I was just reading that Endocrine Society said that they see the use of tea tree oil promoting the growth of breasts in young boys, which is again worrisome in many ways. But the fact that there have been multiple different studies done on this particular natural oil, it's interesting and it is eye-opening. So we do need to look more in depth at this and look at alternatives. But what we put on and around our eyes can impact our vision.
I think the only other thing to say that is helpful is that when you are going to be using a product on a daily basis, you're going to find that there is going to be additional effect from that product. And if it contains ingredients that are harmful within 24 hours, and you keep doing it every 24 hours, and you use it as a cosmetic,
daily, right,
or as a skincare or a body care, then who knows what the long-term effects are. And certainly there aren't studies looking at those just yet, but the ones that are reported are already reporting quite nasty things. And so we just have to be aware. Consumers need to be aware. They need to speak to their eye care professional for advice in terms of what treatments they're being offered and what else they're doing at home that may also potentially be harmful, and stopping those things first before taking treatments on.
Well, thank you. No, this is very helpful because, again, we have so many choices, whether it be the luxury department store or the pharmacy or online for all of these cosmetics. And it's good to know that what we can use, especially those of us with sensitive eyes. There are products out there that can cause or exacerbate our sensitivities, and there are products out there that can help or at least make our quality of life a lot better. So thank you again for your time, Dr. Murthy, Professor Roos from Face Restoration in London. It's been great. And as usual, there's so much more to this story. So thank you. And I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you. Bye.